This is a great view from our studio. Oh, I'm so excited to be here at AUSA Expo live in our nation's capital, Washington D.C. I'm Darren Burge with FRN, and I'm joined today with two folks from No Greater Sacrifice, Rebecca Williams-Forlorn and Boston Gilbert. Thank you for being here and talking to us about three of the most important words I think there is in the English language: no greater sacrifice. I'd like you to kind of tell your story on how you became involved with this organization.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us here. We're just so pleased and grateful to be here. I began with No Greater Sacrifice close to the beginning. I was with a global outreach team in Iraq for a short stint during 2006. And the founder was part of my team. The founder of No Greater Sacrifice was part of the team that I was on. And No Greater Sacrifice was basically born there in Iraq from, we would see service members giving the ultimate sacrifice and then seeing their buddies go out the next day. And we said, kind of how can you do this day after day? And they said, because we know that our families are going to be taken care of back home. At that time, it was prior to a lot of legislation that has passed with the Fry Scholarship, other things. And our founder said, you know what, we do need to make sure that these kids of children of fallen are taken care of. That then began the beginnings of No Greater Sacrifice. And today we support children of fallen and severely wounded service members. We ensure that they have mentorship and scholarship to get into their dream schools and be able to reach any of the dreams that they might have had before trauma came into their life.
I can't thank you enough for what you do as a prior military, 4 years in the Army, 30 years with police. It really touches my heart, having lost, friends and dear comrades. And I think of those three words. I really mean it when I say they're the most important words in language, because so many times you'll hear someone say, thank you for your service, which is beautiful, and we'll never forget. Great start. But how important is it for us to say thank you for your service by taking care of your family? How important is that in terms of us as a community? And no greater place to get that than here at AUSA, where this is an environment of people that truly get that.
Right. Well, I think it's very interesting because here we are in 2022, correct? So, and we're more than 20 years out from 9/11. We also have the major conflicts of Iraq and Afghanistan have closed. What a lot of people, and we as a culture, we're very much in the moment. And sometimes even, media and various things have moved on. These families still experience that either, ultimate sacrifice, or a lot of the children that we support are caregivers to their wounded mother or father. These kids, if you think about 20 years later, what happens 20 years later? College. So right now we are in what I would say our prime time of needing support, because those kids are looking to make their dreams happen, looking to go to college, looking to fulfill their next steps. And we as a country, I believe, are indebted to provide that to these kids.
Absolutely.
And as well, to the entire family, because the service member stands up, takes an oath, but that family that comes behind them, they came about this in a way that they didn't necessarily raise their hand to lose their mom, lose their father, or have them tragically severely wounded. And so any amount that we can give back to make, to allow that child to dream again post-trauma, is where I think the parents, even the military service member, would want us to focus on. Only 10% of nonprofits focus on the children of our military. And the children of our military are our hidden heroes. We just believe that they are such special, unique, resilient people that we should support. And so we ask for everyone to, kind of come behind us in this community time and support. No Greater Sacrifice and Axon has done that by being here today. We began a partnership with them this year.
Gotcha.
And it's very important to have corporations, to have individuals, to have foundations supporting the military children. There's 1% that sign up to serve our nation. So the other 99% have to get behind to be able to allow for growth post-trauma that is just critically important for, I would say, the security and freedom of our nation.
I love it. And talking about the particulars, that's like the mission. What is it that you provide those children of, and to provide them with a better future or a good future? And again, I love how you talk about, we owe that to them, that family. So what is it that you specifically do with the organization?
So No Greater Sacrifice, we step in at any time, at any age, up to 26, to provide mentorship and then funding for college. So we will be able to provide up to the cost of in-state tuition, fees, room and board for that student. And we'll work with them to get into their dream schools, to complete their dream schools, and then to move on to, really do their life's work, their life's mission. So it's really a holistic way of looking at it and very customized. So we don't say, okay, here's $1,000 a semester. We look to see what is due, and like a parent would be paying for that bill or a student would be paying for that bill, and we look to get them to zero.
I love that.
So it's very specific.
The needs of that
very
specific
specific
family.
needs.
I love that. Speaking of families, you're here today for a special reason. Again, with all these neat, fellow service members.
Yes.
What brought you here today? What are you doing here today?
So today we're here really to say thank you to Axon and to forge hopefully a partnership in which, Axon is being able to give back to allow for us to do our job of provide scholarships and mentorship. And we have Boston here with us, who is also on the NGS staff, but he is as well a Gold Star child and was a No Greater Sacrifice scholar. So, it's really full circle a little bit, and we're kind of, our goal is to just help people to remember that the support is still needed, will be still needed, and to see who's going to be willing to be on the team to continue to support, so that no child really doesn't have the opportunity to reach their dreams because of an ultimate sacrifice or any major sacrifice based on their family's willingness to serve.
Perfect segue with sacrifice. Boston, thank you for being here, and thank you for willing to share your story. I know you probably had to do it way too many times. You should have never had to do it, quite frankly, but it happened, and thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Tell us about your story, and again, when we talk about sacrifice, you're the family that paid that price. And bless your hearts, please tell me your story if you can.
Sure, yeah. Thank you for having me here today. So my story with my father, who was killed in action, begins in 2006. So I'm the oldest of 5 kids. I was 9 years old at the time, and my dad was an F-16 fighter pilot. So he was a major in the Air Force and deployed to Taji, Iraq in September of 2006. And on November 27, 2006, he was supporting a group of Delta Force operators who were on the ground, a group of 20 to 30 soldiers, and they were under heavy enemy fire by an Al-Qaeda group with mounted guns. And so they were really kind of outmanned and outgunned, and weren't able to engage the enemy before the enemy was able to fire at them. So they were kind of sitting ducks in the desert. What had got them there was their helicopter crashed. So it was an emergency situation with no close air support at the time of the crash. So my dad was fueling on a tanker nearby and responded promptly to calls from the Delta team, and came in and engaged the enemy on 2 strafing runs. On his first run, he took out a number of mounted trucks, which were really causing the operators issues. And then on his second run, which he pulled a tight turn to be able to stay locked onto the target, really took out the remainder of the enemy who were causing our guys on the ground issues. And actually, before he could pull up, he made impact with the ground. He was coming in so hot. The official investigation dubbed his death as him him being motivated to succeed. So it was
Beyond all
target
measure.
fixation. Yes,
Wow.
sir. Yeah. So at the core, it was I believe it was a sacrificial act, and I believe it was a selfless moment. And I believe he knew what he was doing. He was good at what he did. He was a professional. He broke a lot of rules to do what he did. And so I'm proud to be able to carry on his legacy and remember him.
That is an amazing story. I've heard many amazing stories in my time doing Badge Boys and doing different shows, and that is to have that legacy for you, Boston, to have that. I mean, the pride that you must feel for your father, as far as the loss too. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, no doubt about it. But what a hero! And
Thank you.
So many times we hear that word thrown out. That is a truest sense an American hero. And
Thank you.
And I hate to ask a question that know I don't know if you know the answer. Has any of the folks that were on the ground that were saved by him ever reached out? Have you heard from any of them?
They have. It's a great question. So all of them were able to walk away with their lives that day.
Wow.
And I've been able to meet a number of them. They're very gracious.
I bet.
Very gracious people, yeah, and a lot of them. One in particular, I remember, told me that he has 2 sons, and I have 1 brother. So my dad has 2 sons as well, and he, plainly said that he wouldn't have been able to be a dad for the following years if it wasn't for my dad standing in his stead. I get moments like that I'm very grateful for.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. Wow. That's a hard follow-up question to ask, because where do you go from there?
Well, I do think there is a second half to the story.
Okay.
There is.
That really proves that, we leave no one behind.
Absolutely. Yeah. So kind of a really unique situation, obviously the events of the day, but then his body was taken at the crash site. So this was really kind of a one-of-one instance in our military's history, in that his body was taken, and then a part of his remains were found a number of years later. So we had an initial service in Arlington in 2006. Very little DNA was buried. They buried what they could. I actually didn't know at the time that it wasn't my dad in the casket.
And that's probably just as well.
Exactly.
Probably.
Protection. Yeah. So I found out years later. My mom was aware, but and they found part of his remains, and I believe it was 7 years later. A group of special operators went in, still a continued investigation to find him.
Wow.
And then in conclusion, 10 years later, we had our 3rd and final service at Arlington, again, the only case of that in our military's history, as they found the rest of his remains. A Green Beret team went in 10 years later and found him. So I think, like Rebecca said, it's a great story of really our government, our military, our country ultimately not giving up and retrieving 100% of my dad's remains after he made this sacrifice.
Yeah, talk about leave no one behind. I love that. So thank you for prompting him on that story. The story just keeps getting more amazing. First is the heroics of your father, which are, just mind-blowing, quite frankly. Stuff that Hollywood is made of. Hollywood couldn't even make up that story. It's so beautiful, and his sacrifice to his comrades. But then again, the family's paying that price. So I love the idea that the Army went in and said, no, we're not leaving anyone behind. We're going to continue the investigation. And
absolutely.
I love that. Wow. How did you get involved, other than the obvious, with the organization? How did you get involved on a personal way?
Absolutely, yeah. So it was a family who Rebecca and NGS was serving. Can't remember the date, but introduced my family to Rebecca and NGS, and NGS promptly took me and my 4 siblings under their wing and committed to funding for our education. And so NGS paid out large sums on my expensive college tuition to SMU in Dallas, which I would not have been able to attend if it wasn't for No Greater Sacrifice. And got a great degree, played college soccer, had a lot of experiences that have literally formed who I am. And I wouldn't have been able to be in that environment without the organization. And
I have an important question for you.
Absolutely.
What position did you play?
Center mid.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yep. Unbelievable experiences, and grateful that
and
I was able to.
And how about your degree?
It was a sport management degree. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. Still
and
in
now
Dallas.
I'm looking at your shirt, and
Yeah.
it clearly says No Greater Sacrifice, and now you're involved in what capacity?
I am. I serve as associate director under Rebecca and a part of the team, and just grateful to be able to, in my own way, give back to the community that I'm a part of. So.
I love that. I have to ask you, what advice would you give to some young 9-year-old out there that is going through something like this? I mean, is there any words of wisdom that you could provide them? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, right.
I think you've got to own your story. I think the more you run away from it, because it's tempting, the harder it gets. And I think in your own way, you've got to squarely face what's happened to you. And I don't know, that's different for everyone, right? You have different stories and different family dynamics and different situations where the sacrifice was made, and that all plays into it. It ties in. But I think, you know what you need to do. You know the conversations you might need to have, and I think that encouraging my comrades really to be courageous in the face of those questions would be my
I love the
advice.
idea of talking about the comrades, because I would think support, wherever that support may come from, whether it be family, friends, and organizations like No Greater Sacrifice. Talk about how rewarding it is for you to see these different families. And see, I hate to use you as an example, but a beautiful, truly beautiful example of where he is today.
Right.
You know?
Well, when we first started in 2008, we had galas, we had events. They were very sad. We were still at a sad part in
our uplifting aspect.
Right. We were still at a sad part in our country. We were still, having a lot of casualties. And thankfully, due to, on the ground medics, we were able to bring a lot of folks back, but they came back. A lot of folks came back severely wounded, very severely wounded. We're talking about our double, triple, quad amputees, our traumatic brain injuries. We've seen the amount of PTSD, the 22 suicides a day. So it was pretty much, we believe if we provide avenues of support, be that through various avenues, but if we provide a community for our Gold Stars and also for those that are severely wounded to come back to, that we hope that we can stop that generational sacrifice within one generation and hope that they can reach their dreams. And so Boston is one example of many that have now, fully, as he said, been able to own the journey that he's on, and really, kind of closed that circle. I mean, his loss will always be a loss. There's no doubt about that, right? Yeah. So lives have been changed, but we hope that they haven't been changed to a detriment of generational after generation after generation. Yeah. So I think it's a perfect example of if you do provide support through organizations such as No Greater Sacrifice, there can be dreams reached, right? So here we are today, able to say in 2022, we have a lot of kiddos out there. We have a lot of teachers. We have a lot of nurses. We have a lot that choose to go into these fields.
All these dreams come true.
They come true. The dreams fulfilled, and that's what we were really after, and that's what, I think that's not to speak for Boston's dad. I never, unfortunately, got to meet his dad, but I think that's what, if you asked any mother or father that they would want for their child, is for their child to be able to reach their dreams. Yeah. So if we can help provide that as a community, then I think that, that's our goal. And
is there a website where if somebody wants more information to help out maybe Monterey, or as well as like what Gilbert is doing, or Boston?
Yes. So our website is www.nogreatersacrifice.org. You can go there. 96 cents to every dollar goes directly to our mission. So we're very specific on that, in wanting as much money as possible to go towards the mission, to go towards the children of fallen and severely wounded service members. So thank you for helping us reach their dreams. Thanks, Axon, for having us here today and really believing in the mission and the vision and seeing it through.
I have to say, as we're closing, I want to ask you about your dream moving forward now. What are your aspirations? Obviously, you're in a great position with NGS. You're like you said, paying forward. Such a beautiful statement, and we should be paying you, right, for your father's sacrifice, and you, the family, paying for that beautiful sacrifice to his comrades. But what kind of dreams do you have, other than maybe playing at at the World Cup or something?
Oh man, that one's past me. What a thoughtful question. I really enjoy leadership study. I got my master's degree in leadership after SMU. I went to another school in Dallas, DBU, and got a master's in leadership. So I don't know where that might take me, whether it's further education, whether it's teaching, but I enjoy very relational. I enjoy people. I enjoy psychology. I enjoy teams. So I don't know where that intersection might lead me, but those are my passions.
The world's open to you.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that. Again, I cannot thank you enough, Boston, for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
And wow, it's changed my life. That was a really riveting story. It's touched my heart, really. And thank you for what you're doing with this.
It's my honor. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it should be all our honors, right?
Yeah.
That wraps it up for this interview at Live AUSA here in the nation's capital. I'm so excited to have been able to talk with them about their stories. There's other stories. Check out FRN at live interviews at AUSA. Until then, thanks for watching and stay safe.